Thanks for watching Endgame Economics. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. It's completely free for you, and it helps us continue making more videos like this.
All right, let's jump right into it. I want you to picture the scene. The year is 2026. It's April 28th, and you're sitting inside a wood-paneled conference room in Vienna at OPEC headquarters. The mood in there? It's incredibly tense. Brent crude has just broken $100 a barrel, Iran is at war, and the Strait of Hormuz is effectively blocked. You've got ministers filing in to deal with the worst supply collapse since the 1970s. And then, out of nowhere, an envelope from Abu Dhabi quietly lands on the conference table. The United Arab Emirates, literally a founding member since 1967 and sitting on the world's 7th largest oil reserves, is officially out.
Now, the official explanation from the UAE was packed with all this dry corporate speak about a long-term strategic vision. But if you translate that diplomatic register into plain English, they were essentially saying, "We are done with this group, please do not text us." And sure, almost every headline out there immediately blamed this shocking exit on Iran, or the Strait of Hormuz, or those sky-high oil prices. But honestly, they're totally wrong. What we're actually unpacking in this explainer is the culmination of 3 years of very quiet maneuvering and a massive geopolitical divorce that's basically been hiding in plain sight. So, to really grasp why the UAE walked away after 60 years, we need to look beneath this surface. Let's start with our first major layer. Section 1, the multi-billion-dollar cage. Okay, so the core mechanism of literally any cartel is the production quota. OPEC isn't exactly a happy family just figuring out fair shares around a campfire. It's a highly rigid system that only works if every single member agrees to produce way less than they're physically capable of. It's voluntary discipline, or, price fixing with a trade group attached. And if you're a rapidly growing economy like the UAE, this artificial baseline creates some massive structural friction.
Just take a look at the massive gap on this chart. The UAE's OPEC baseline was set way back in 2018 at roughly 3.17 million barrels a day. But since then, their national oil company, ADNOC, went ahead and executed a staggering $132 billion capacity expansion. They drilled new wells, signed foreign partnerships, and pushed their actual 2026 capacity all the way up to 4.85 million barrels, eyeing a goal of 5 million by 2027. I mean, it's pretty simple. You just can't build 5 million barrels of capacity inside a cartel that legally caps you at roughly 3.
And the math here is genuinely brutal. Researchers at Rice University ran the numbers for us, and here's what that gap looks like in cold, hard cash. $50 billion in additional annual revenue. That is exactly what the UAE was voluntarily leaving on the floor every single year just to maintain cartel discipline. Imagine running your factory at only 70% capacity while your biggest competitors over in Texas and Brazil are pumping flat out. To Abu Dhabi, this wasn't market discipline anymore. It felt like they were trapped in a multi-billion-dollar quota cage. But as you might guess, it wasn't just economics. Let's peel back the next layer of the iceberg to uncover a hidden split. Section 2. The Saudi-Emirati Cold War. For decades, Western analysts mostly treated Riyadh and Abu Dhabi as the single, unified bloc. But check out this timeline. The actual fracture started in Yemen back in 2015. They went in as allies, but ultimately ended up backing completely opposing factions. And then, things escalated dramatically in December 2025, when Saudi airstrikes actually hit weapons shipments that were bound for UAE-backed separatist forces in Yemen. Let's be real here. You do not bomb your allies' proxies. That is a massive, unmistakable signal. So they went from being complementary allies to direct, head-to-head competitors. Saudi Arabia is literally demanding that foreign companies move their regional headquarters to Riyadh, and they're pouring money into futuristic mega-projects like NEOM. They're deliberately courting the exact same global capital, the exact same tech, and the exact same tourism sectors that the UAE spent a 30-year head start building up. So this OPEC exit, it didn't cause their Cold War. It was really just the loudest symptom of it. Which brings us to a much deeper philosophical shift driving Abu Dhabi's entire foreign policy. Section 3, the strategic autonomy shift. They call it strategic autonomy. Emirati diplomatic advisor Anwar Gargash actually referred to this as the UAE's North Star. And the core idea is brutally simple. Depending on any single country or bloc for your security or your economy is a massive strategic mistake. Remaining permanently tethered to a restrictive bloc like OPEC, which forces conformity and punishes anyone who deviates, fundamentally contradicts their whole modern national strategy. They absolutely refuse to let any relationship turn into a chokehold. Look at the incredibly precise timing of their exit in April 2026. Right as they were dropping that bombshell on OPEC, they were holding direct security talks with the U.S. Secretary of State. At America's encouragement, an Israeli Iron Dome battery was actually deployed right there on Emirati soil during an active conflict, which is just unprecedented. On top of that, they secured a massive U.S. Treasury swap line. The UAE timed their exit perfectly, so they could swap out OPEC's geopolitical umbrella for incredibly tight bilateral U.S. guarantees.
But beyond the geopolitics, there is a terrifying, existential macro math layer to all this that keeps every oil minister awake at night. Section 4, the peak demand ticking clock.
This data completely shatters the old assumptions. If you assumed the UAE's economy was mostly just oil, you would be off by a country mile. By 2024, oil and gas only accounted for about 30% of their GDP. Compare that directly to Saudi Arabia, which is still incredibly reliant on crude. When oil drops to $60 a barrel, Saudi Arabia absolutely panics about its national budget. But the UAE, they basically just shrug it off.
And they can easily shrug because they've built these massive diversification engines. We're talking about the busiest container port outside of East Asia, thousands of active firms over in Dubai's financial center, an astonishing $1.7 trillion sitting in sovereign wealth funds, and this huge push to become a global AI hub with companies like G42. The UAE built their exit door decades ago before they finally decided to casually walk through it. Honestly, they're a massive global trading hub that just happens to pump oil on the side.
So here is the absolute crucial point about how the math has changed. The old OPEC logic worked great when everyone just assumed oil demand was going to grow forever. Sacrifice your volume to get a higher margin. But forecasters basically all agree now that global oil demand will peak sometime between 2030 and 2040. Under that new reality, if you hold back your production, you're just creating stranded assets, oil left in the ground that literally nobody will ever buy. The UAE realized they have to flip the script, sacrifice margin for volume, and pump flat out before the music stops.
Which perfectly sets up the final, and definitely the most impactful, part of our explainer today. Section 5, the end of cartels.
Let's map out how this creates a structural death spiral for the group. OPEC's global market share already dropped to around 35% by 2025. Why? Well, because the US, Guyana, and Brazil are out there pumping massive amounts of oil completely outside of the quota system. And as your market share shrinks, your pricing power shrinks with it. Defecting starts looking really attractive. First Qatar left, then Angola, and now the UAE, which was literally one of the cartel's 3 load-bearing pillars. The guys left behind are now carrying an incredibly heavy burden.
There's actually a dark joke that floats around commodity trading circles. The most expensive thing in the world is a cartel that members don't believe in anymore. Institutions that were built for a world of perpetual, endless demand simply cannot survive when the macro conditions flip. When the structure starts to rot, the smartest, most diversified members always run for the exit first. They leave quietly, and they do it entirely on their own terms.
The UAE wasn't just betting blind here. They were betting with the data, embracing low costs and high volumes over outdated cartel discipline. And that leaves us with a massive trillion-dollar question for the global economy moving forward. If the era of infinite demand is truly over, which cartel falls next? The global ripple effects of this historic exit are really just beginning. You're definitely going to want to keep an eye on how this reshapes the entire future of energy.